I'm very nervous tonight. And I'm telling you this off the bat because I'm going to talk to you about my crippling fear of death and my existential anxiety. I don't like to talk about this to anyone. That's why I haven't told anybody about this before. A part of me is very tender and it fears the optics, like, is it gonna make me look like I'm completely crazy, right? And, I know I'm not crazy, but isn't that exactly what a crazy person would say? I'm not crazy, I swear. But the reason I'm making this video is important. I feel like I can help other people because I've had this fear all my life, and it's not always active. It kind of flares up once every few years when something special happens. But the last time that this happened to me, prayed that I could find a video like this one, like the one I'm gonna make tonight. And I couldn't find anything like that in the entirety of YouTube. Like if you look up fear of death or if you look up existential anxiety, all you find is like religious gurus trying to take advantage of people that are having a very difficult time. These people, like Christian pastors or shamans or like Indian gurus in India, they're all trying to exploit this on you and like tell you that the solution to all of your problems is just to like convert a workshop that you can buy for just $3.99, the charlatan video, and then there are videos that are not made by charlatans, but that feel super canned. The rest of the video is about solutions so you can get your life back on track. As much as I appreciate that they're trying to help people out, what I really wanted in my heart was to feel less lonely. I wanted to find a video where somebody told their story. By listening to their experience, I could feel less lonely, and I could also maybe take something away that would have helped me. I was basically hoping somebody would be authentic for once instead of using a pre-canned message. And I never found that video, by the way, so I'm making it now. For the people who tune in every night to watch me, and I know there's like 5 of you and a dog. I think like this is gonna help you understand me much better, even if the understanding is going to be this woman has a screw loose, she's off her rocker, she needs help. All right, I have never told this story to anybody before, so I have a lot of stuff to tell you, and anecdotes, little stories, realizations that I've had. And basically I want to do like a full scan of what this has been like my entire life. The first thing that I'm going to tell you is I remember the day that I realized that people die, things die, and I didn't take it very well. You see, what happened was my cousins, their mom they had a dog in their mom's house. But then they were going to go on a trip. It was a very cute Cocker Spaniel. The dog was called Lucky, and it was a puppy, and it was brown. And I had never, none of my cousins had a dog. I didn't have a dog. It was the first time that I actually got to interact with a dog in person. And they went on a trip to the US, and they left this dog at a veterinarian. And the veterinarian was going to take care of Lucky. But things didn't go as planned, because when they got back from the trip and they went to pick up Lucky, Lucky was extremely sick. I don't know why my mother found out, and we went to see them and the dog to their house, and the dog just smelled terrible. It turns out he had caught some sort of virus at the vet. It's so silly that I'm crying over this. My God, this happened like forever ago. But this little dog, this puppy that was so cute, and he was suffering so much, and I don't know what the name of the disease is, but it smelled terrible. And he ended up dying, and it was so traumatic because, my cousins really love the dog. I didn't really love the dog, but I liked the dog. It was cute. It was a puppy, and I didn't understand why all of this suffering was happening to this little dog. Turns out the vet had kept the dog in a tiny little cage the whole time. It was like 2 weeks, and it kept him next to other dogs that were sick, and the puppy just caught whatever it was that the other dogs had, and he died, and it was horrible. And that was the first time. I think I was like, maybe I was like 6 years old or something, and I didn't understand why this puppy had to suffer so much. Like, what could this Cocker Spaniel have done to deserve this horrible outcome? To me, it was inexplicable. Like, who planned for this? Like, how is this possible? And so from that point on, I remember I was in kindergarten still, so I must have been younger than 7. I must have been like 5. I remember being like in the hallway of like the preschool, like playing with my little friends. We were playing like these hand games, and I remember thinking in my head that if I had a genie, if I had a genie and I had 3 wishes, that I didn't really need for one of the wishes to be like, give me more wishes, that I was very willing to just stick to 3, so long as one of them was that neither I or anybody that I loved would ever die. And I have such distinct memories of this. It was so hard for me to like integrate the idea of dying into my head. Like I didn't understand why this had to be this way. Nobody explained it to me either, because I am Jewish, and so Jews don't really talk about death. Catholics around me and like Christians have this idea of like, there's heaven, there's hell, there's the purgatory, there's this, there's that. When you die, this happens and that happens. But Jews don't have that. We don't have hell, and we don't have heaven either. And nobody talks about this. And when you ask like a rabbi or like a Hebrew teacher what happens, all they tell you is like, well, nobody knows. According to how good you are, you get closer to God, you get closer or farther away to God, which is something so abstract. And like, you're a kid, like you need something tangible. You're a kid. You don't know, like, closer to God. What does it mean? Where is God? Because also, as a Jew, like, you're not told that God is like Jesus. You cannot put a face to God, because God is faceless. God is an idea, an abstract idea. You don't know what God looks like, what he feels like, where he lives. Like, there's like none of that. All they tell you is like, God is one. There's one God, and it's God, and we are so smart that we don't need to depict him in any way like other religions that are more barbaric and like backwards. We don't need to make a statue of our God because we're smart. We don't need that. We know that God is just an idea. So, but you're a child, and God is an idea, and they tell you that if you die, all you have is like different levels of proximity to God as an idea. Very abstract, very difficult. So I had a really hard time dealing with this sense of death. And then everything was fine. Everything was okay until about, I'll say I was maybe 13. And when I was 13, my mother's friend got cancer. We weren't very close to her. Like, I don't remember being close to her before she got sick. But the minute that she got sick, and it was a very aggressive type of cancer, my mother decided that she was going to take on a caretaker role for her friend, because her friend had no siblings. And my mother wanted to be involved in this situation for some reason. Several times a week, For a few years, after school, I would go with my mother to this woman's house so that my mother would talk to her and I would play with her kids. And it was a very somber way to spend my afternoons. I had to be a witness of this woman who was young. She was the same age as my mother, and she was young, just slowly but surely decaying and dying. And her children also, their lives being completely destroyed by this whole situation. Shortly after she died, I started having episodes of derealization and depersonalization, which basically is, it's a situation where imagine that you're just going around your life normally, and all of a sudden, you start feeling very different. Very different. It's a sensation. It's not a thought. This is important for you to understand. These things are very scary because it's not something that you think. It's something that you feel. It comes from here, not from here. And you start feeling, in one of the cases, you start feeling like you're not yourself. Like you see your hands and you see them as if they were the hands of somebody else. You understand me? They are so foreign to you like any other object around you. Like if I'm having an episode of those, if I see the mic and I see my hand, I see them as equally foreign to me. If I see myself in the mirror, I don't recognize myself as myself. And in fact, I feel like me is very, very far away, like a little tiny dot very far away from my physical body. It's a very super strange sensation that can drive you crazy. You can start thinking like there's something wrong with your head. The other one is the polar opposite. The other one is called derealization. And that one feels like you are real, but everything around you is not. Suddenly you start feeling like you're in the set of a movie. Like you're Truman in the Truman Show, something like that. Like everything around you is just a backdrop. People are actors. This is a stage. None of this is real. This is all artificial. You start seeing things like they were like painted or something. Like they are absolutely not real. Your mind rejects it as fake. And in my case, these episodes only lasted for like a few hours, and maybe I had them a couple, like 2 or 3 times each, but it was super scary. Super, super scary. And I was maybe, I don't know, I'm going to say I was maybe 19 or so. And the funeral of my mother's friend was crazy. Like I said, I'm Jewish. So Jewish funerals are not like the funerals that you're probably used to seeing, like in movies. Jews bury people in very stripped down boxes. It's just the most simple box you can imagine. And it goes on the floor. And they put some sort of cloth over it. And there's no open casket. That's like not even, doesn't exist, no open casket. So when I went to my mother's friend's funeral, I had this super odd feeling that my mother's friend, the person that I had been talking to like last week, was inside that box. And the box looked so small. Like, I don't know why the dimensions of this box felt so weird to me, that a whole human could fit into that small box. It felt so small. It felt so wrong. And she was, all her life, all her things, everything about her was just, could fit into that tiny box on the floor. And I felt for a minute like like she was like a toy, or like a doll or a toy put away in a box, like forever. It was just too much. And obviously I didn't cry then, because this was just like a sensation that I had inside of me. And it was full of people, and I was not going to be like crying or anything about it. And I was, like I said, like 19 or something. But oh my God, this video is so somber. Like I don't even know if I'm gonna post this. I feel like you're all gonna think I'm crazy. I don't know why this affects me so much. Like she wasn't even my family, and I didn't really have a very close relationship with her, more with her children, really, who I really did like. But not with her. She was friends with my mother, but it's the fact. You see what I say? I have a crippling fear of death. It's the fact that she was dead, not because it affects me. And around the same time as this happened, another friend of mine from school that was my age got cancer. And he was just an acquaintance. He wasn't close to me, but everybody was in shock because he was so young. We were 19, and he got a really, really aggressive type of cancer, and he was in the hospital. And all of my friends went to donate plasma, like not blood, but like the liquid that blood floats on. I don't even know if I'm making any sense. And I went to donate plasma, but all of my friends donated, and afterwards they went to visit the guy in his room. All of them, all my friends went up to his room, and I couldn't. I just donated plasma and then left like a coward, like a ninja, like a burglar in the night. I was in front of the elevator, like thinking if I should go up and say hi, but I couldn't. I just couldn't go up there and see him like dying. It was too much for me, and I couldn't, and I had to leave. And I feel guilty to this day because he died like a week later, and I never saw him, and I never said goodbye. And he wasn't even that close to me, but I always felt like that was the hallmark of how much of a coward I am. So naturally, I was dealing with seeing my mother's friend die and going to her funeral, and then this guy, and he also died, and he was my age. So this was the first flare-up. Like I started having panic attacks and intrusive thoughts about things like me dying in freak accidents. And I couldn't stop these thoughts. They were just intrusive thoughts all the time. Like I would, for example, like I was really, really, really afraid of falling down the stairs. Like I guess it's the opposite of like people who are afraid of like riding an elevator. You know, people avoid elevators. I avoided stairs. I was mortally afraid of like falling off the stairs and breaking my spine in two. But it wasn't just a fear of like, oh, I'm afraid of falling down the stairs. No, whenever I was like walking down the stairs, I had an image, a flash, like a movie, like a 2-second movie play in my head where I saw myself at the bottom of the stairs with my spine split into two and like a pool of blood under me. And I couldn't do it. Like I had to like go back up and then find the elevator to go down. Yeah, and that lasted for about, I don't know, it lasted for about a year, maybe. Yeah. And it was kind of like I said, like on the back of my head for even longer, until I moved away from Venezuela, from my home country. And then it was slowly but surely disappeared. Or it went rogue, I suppose, because a couple of years later, it came back. Now, at this point in time, I didn't know what the origin of my panic attacks were. you know? What's the origin? All I could feel was that whenever that I went outside and I had like a crowd of people around me, I would start getting nervous, and then I would go full on panic attack. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I started to hyperventilate, and I had to sit down because I started having a feeling like on the back of my neck that was extremely uncomfortable. And I hadn't figured out the reason though, you know, because it's far from me. Like, so it all felt kind of like disconnected. I felt like maybe this was tied to something else entirely. I don't know, maybe the fact that I was graduating college, or, you know, I tried to look for an explanation for what I was feeling. And it's only now in hindsight that I know that it was triggered by these experiences of death. Okay, I'm going to take a little pause here, because I need to think whether or not I want you guys to see this video, or maybe I need to pick a different subject for tonight. Okay, so after that episode, and especially after I left my hometown and I moved to another country, everything started to get better and better. Like, my anxiety was almost gone. I had no more panic attacks. I had no more weird episodes. Everything went back to normal. And in fact, I was having a really good time. And I even managed, like, even though I was leaving my home country with literally nothing, I was managing to make strides. Like, I found a job and I managed to get, you know, a place to live in. Like, I found a roommate and all of these things. And my life seemed to be getting like a nice direction. I was having like a good direction in life, and I was very excited. And then my grandfather died. And everybody was expecting him to die, I suppose, because he was 90-something years old and he had dementia. So it was okay that he died, but the problem was that I was living in a completely different continent. So I was not going to be able to attend the funeral, because I had a job and I couldn't just like tell my boss, hey, I'm going to take a few days off because my grandfather, who was 90-something and senile, died. And so I'm going to fly all the way across the world to go to the funeral. And because I don't have money to pay for the flight ticket and my parents are going to pay for it, they're going to want me to stay for at least 2 weeks. So I'll see you in November, you know. That was not going to fly. I was going to get fired. And if I got fired, I couldn't continue to live abroad. And if I had to move back to my hometown, I think I would rather die than move back to Venezuela, to communist Venezuela, under my parents' roof. So with all the pain in the world, I decided that I couldn't attend the funeral of my grandfather. And that broke my heart, because I had been very, very close to my grandparents. And, you know, my grandfather, and especially my grandma, I had been very, very, very close to them. And I felt terrible that I couldn't attend the funeral. It was literally really bad. But just the fact that my grandpa died, and that was like it was the spark of a new flare-up. And this flare-up was completely different. Here, I wasn't like having episodes or panic attacks. This time around, what happened to me was I had like, it was like like I had a repository of memories that I hadn't have a clue, like I didn't know existed from my childhood. I didn't really remember much about my childhood from where I was younger than 12. Well, when my grandfather died, all of that came gushing out, and it was like movies playing in my head. It was like all of a sudden I was doing something, I was cooking or something, and then a movie of like when I was 5 and I don't know, skipped class in preschool. Like things like that started to happen, like movies playing in my head that I had no control over. I was also extremely sad, and I wanted to be isolated, and I didn't want to have to talk to anybody because my head was just all over the place. And at the same time, my mother and I had a very complicated relationship, and she would write to me all day. and I had to answer, like I had to reply to her right away. Otherwise she would get mad at me and tell me like I don't care about her. And because my head was like bubbling with all of this, and I couldn't really deal with both things at the same time, like my head reacting this way to my grandfather's death, and at the same time, while I'm trying to like not burn myself while like frying an egg when I have like memories that I didn't even know existed, like flooding my brain, and my mother pinging me on WhatsApp, like ding, 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 why are you not replying to what I'm saying? You don't care about me. So all of this was too much. It was too much for me. So I kindly sent her an email and asked her that I needed a few days for myself without contact with anyone and communicating with anybody, because I was not in a good place mentally and I needed some time. And that was not the best idea. That didn't go over so well with my mom. Yeah. She asked me, she tried to negotiate with me. Like she asked me like, how long is it going to take me to talk to her again? And I didn't really know, because I didn't really want to like cut contact with my mother. What I wanted was to have like a respite, like a few days, like collect like my thoughts and get stable again. I needed time to deal with what was happening to me without having people like go off the handle, because I'm not quick enough replying. And I figured in my head, like, well, maybe this will take me, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month, but I don't know, I'm not sure. And she was asking me, well, give me a date. When are you going to come back? When are you going to be available again to talk to me? And I was like, I don't know, Mom. Is it going to be 1 day or 10 days? Is it going to be 1 week or 1 month or 1 year? How long is it going to be? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. I just want to be okay. I just want to get my head in order. I'm sorry. I don't know. Okay. So my mom got really mad, and there were some really hurtful emails after that, because so it is Yom Kippur, and it's the date where God writes the names of people in the book of life. And you see how your uncle, who was estranged from the family, died very young. And that is because God didn't inscribe him in the book of life, and that was because he was estranged from his mother. She said that the commandment of honor your mother and your father in the Bible has the reward of a long life. So if you don't honor your mother and your father, the result is that you die young, like my uncle. And I felt like she was saying, and I don't know, like, I don't know even if I should be telling this in this video, but basically she was saying like the fact that I was asking her for some space with no communication put me on the same spot as my uncle. And because of that, I was going to die young, just like him. I think that was the moment where my fear of death got like completely cemented into my being, like into the core of my being. Because after that, every Yom Kippur, my mother would write me an email wishing that God would write me in the book of life. Especially after we got estranged as well. That's what she writes me. Wrote me every Yom Kippur. So after a lot of therapy or like deep reflection, I realized that a part of me actually wished that I could die young, because I then would fulfill my mother's wish. You see? You understand how fucked up that is? This is unconscious, of course, but like a part of me was very afraid of death, because another part of me wanted to please my mother so badly. And she kept telling me every year that she hoped that God would inscribe me in the book of life, just like my uncle. That's so dark. I don't think I should be telling you this. But yeah. And for a long time, I didn't remember that this had happened, or I didn't give it the weight that it has. And it's funny, because for a while, I had this feeling, like, for some reason, I had the gut feeling that I was going to die young. I had that sensation, like, for some reason, I don't know why, I feel like I'm going to die young. I feel like I'm going to die young. I'm sorry if I have moments where I'm lost in thought, but this is, like I said at the beginning, this is like a hardcore video for me to make. So after that point, after my grandfather died, the fear of death only got worse and worse with me. That was the point of no return. And it didn't really show up as fear of death. It showed up as an absolute obsession with figuring out the true nature of God and the building blocks of reality. And what was underlying that was the fear of death, obviously. Because basically what my mind was trying to do, like a part of my mind had a really big fear of dying. So if my mother said the God of the Jews was not going to write me in the book of life because I didn't honor my parents, then I needed to find another God, one that was willing to love me, and that was not going to murder me young. But also, another part of me really wanted to die young, so that I could please my mom. A good girl pleases her parents, and so that was my mother's wish, right? That if I didn't talk to her, then I should die young. So this manifested in two ways in my life. On the one hand, I had the nagging feeling. I didn't know that this was the origin, mind you. This was after a lot of reflection and self-therapy, I guess we could call it. But all I felt was completely disconnected to that episode. What I felt was, on the one hand, I had the nagging feeling that I was going to die young. And my mind didn't connect this to my mother's comment. Okay, I had the nagging feeling that what was in store for me was a short life, that I was going to die young, that my life was really cool and awesome, and I loved everything about my life, but I had to die young. That was like the price to pay, or something like that. It was like a feeling in my bones. And then the other part of me was obsessed with figuring out the nature of God, metaphysics. What is the world built out of? What is the essence of reality? All of these things started to take more and more space in my mind. And I didn't realize that it was linked to that episode and that comment. Now I know. Now I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel like I'm going to die young anymore, because I know who planted that idea in my head. Oh my God. Okay, so what happened next? Okay, so after this episode, and I stopped talking to my parents, and everything got back on track, and my life got better and better, and I was just in such a good place. And I started camming, and I became super successful, and everything was going great. I had such a wonderful life. But I still kept thinking about all of these things in the back of my mind. At one point, while I was streaming, I wanted to make a tip menu. This means a tip menu is you have a lot of items at different prices that people can tip for, tip you money for, I guess. I don't know if you've ever watched Twitch. Many Twitch streamers have this. If you tip me $1, I will smile and wave and blow you a kiss. And if you tip me $5, I do this and I do that. And I was experimenting with party tricks. I wanted to do party tricks in my tip menu to keep the spirit of my room going. And so I figured I did so many different things. And at one point I thought that I could include reading tarot into my menu. I had never had an interest in the occult. I had never read tarot. I had never dabbled into any of these things, but I got a tarot deck, like this one. I got a tarot deck. And at the beginning, whenever people tipped, I would like pull out the tarot card and then pull out like the little booklet that comes with the tarot, and I would read it aloud, whatever it was that it said in there, and I left it at that. But I am someone with the curse of a brain that never stops. And I started looking at these tarot cards, and I started to see like, you know what? They're actually quite cool, these cards. I wonder what they mean, really. Like, why does the booklet say this thing? And then yada, yada. So I started to get interested in understanding tarot. And I became obsessed with tarot, with understanding tarot, because especially after I realized that tarot is actually a book that explains. So tarot is like a book without a spine. It was created by occultists, and they were trying to summarize all of the hidden knowledge about the universe in these cards. And it's like a book without a spine, and each one of these cards is encoding a lot of occult knowledge on the nature of reality. So that's the esoteric meaning of the cards. If you go to like a tarotist, she doesn't know any of these things. Like she will read like, oh my God, you're pregnant. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted to understand tarot in its most esoteric layer, like the actual meaning, the mystery behind the cards. And it was very difficult at first because I didn't understand how to read symbolically. But it was like learning about the tarot altered my brain completely. It altered my brain completely, and I learned how to read symbolically. And it unlocked like a new understanding of like, I could read things in many layers now, not just one. That was like after years of like learning tarot. And the problem was that I started to actually understand at some level, superficial level at first, the perennial truths about the way metaphysics and theology has been understood through the ages of humanity. So the nature of God, all of these things that were nagging in my brain, now this was feeding it, you know? This was feeding the obsession with understanding God and the nature of reality. These stupid cards, okay? So what happened next? Okay, I now I had an understanding. About 15 years went by between the moment my grandfather died and the moment of the story I'm about to tell you, which happened about 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, I had a really heavy year. I'm not going to go into details because I don't like to share so much of my personal life online. So I'm going to try and like blur the details a little bit. But let's just say that I had 3 very close encounters with death. 2 of them I'm not going to talk about. But one of them, like the most heavy one, was a family member very close to me that I love so much, had something terrible happen, and I just found it incredibly difficult to cope with. So what happened was, one day, I was told that this person couldn't. They had really, really bad headaches, and they were sleeping most of the day. And I started seeing so many worrisome symptoms, like their hand was shaking all the time to the point where they couldn't put a key into a keyhole because their hands were shaking so much. They had no strength in their legs. Their knees would give, so they couldn't like go up or down the stairs. they're usually so smart, so bright, like so intelligent, and suddenly they were like completely dull. They couldn't understand or follow anything that you would tell them. And talking to this person, they described other symptoms to me. Like, for example, they would turn their head to the sides and their vision would go black. They had a lot of difficulty finding words when they were trying to say something. And at one point, they didn't even recognize some very common words. Like, I once told them, I'm going to slice an avocado for you. And they were like, what's that? An avocado? What is an avocado? Like, they had forgotten the meaning of very basic words. And I shat myself. Like, I didn't know at first what was going on, and I kept Googling symptoms. I tried to take them to the ER, but they refused to go. They don't trust doctors. They don't trust the healthcare system, and they flat out refused to go to the doctor. And I kept seeing all these worrisome symptoms, and I couldn't do a single thing about it. A single thing. I would see this person every day. And every day, things got worse and worse. There was nothing I could do about it, and I was seeing them slip away from me, in between my fingers, and there was just nothing I could do about it. And this happened throughout months. I'm talking about months and months of this. And I kept looking up the symptoms online and trying to figure out what was wrong, because he didn't want to go get a diagnosis. And at first I said, is it maybe Parkinson's? I ran some tests and I realized it wasn't. Maybe this is this, maybe this is that. And eventually I realized that it was probably a stroke. One side was more afflicted than the other. It was just one hand, one leg, and it was the same side. And this person was so young, and I read that a lot of people have repeat strokes, especially if they don't get medical attention, and they often die. I was convinced that they were going to die. And if they did die, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. Like, I felt like this person was the column that kept my life together. I don't have a lot of people in my life. And they were like the spine that kept me standing. And so every day I became, this is so stupid. I became addicted to reading tarot. Like, every single day I would pull out my cards and I would do a spread after spread after spread, asking if they were going to get better, asking if they were going to survive, if I was going to have to see them die. And I kept wishing for a different answer each time. Like, I would do all kinds of complicated spreads. Like, at first I would try with like 3 cards, but then that didn't seem like it was enough. So I would do 5 cards, and then that wasn't enough, because I don't know, maybe if I do a Celtic cross, then that one will give me the answer that I'm looking for. And things could change from day to day. And maybe yesterday it said that it was going to get better, but what if something happened today and he didn't go to the doctor? And maybe, so I became compulsive of reading tarot. And I would read it like 20 times a day. It would make me feel for a minute, like for a single minute, it would give me certainty that I knew what the outcome was going to be. And on the other side, oh my God, this is so fucked up. And on the other side, I didn't know if this person, like, I was feeling incredibly anxious and worried because I didn't know where they were going. Like, if they died, where were they going to go? They were going to suffer, or what was going to happen? I didn't know, and I didn't want them to suffer or to go anywhere horrible. And I wanted to know if I could ever see them again. This was so horrible. I would cry every night. Every night I would cry. I would cry every single night, and so it became like really important to me that I figured out, that I used my brain to figure it out, like how the reality worked, because that way I would know where he was going, and I would know that if I could, maybe there was some way that I could meet him again somewhere. And so I spent months and months reading everything that there is to read about, like, reality, from all of the different traditions, like Pali Buddhism and like Tantra and all kinds of different schools of thought and alchemy and all of that. And I realized that that there maybe was a way that I could meet them if they died, and I could meet them even if they were dead. And that was and it's gonna sound so stupid now. I realize now that it's so stupid, but back then to me it made sense. And it was through lucid dreaming. So if I could train myself to like lucid dream, then my spirit would go to the astral plane, and there I could meet his spirit. And I started trying to achieve this. And I tell you this, and this sounds like so fucking stupid. Sounds like ridiculous. I hate myself for this, really. But to me at the time, this made sense. And so I spent like 6 months, every night, trying with my whole heart to get into a state of lucid dreaming. And at first, I couldn't do it at first. Like 4 months or so. But then I was truly fucked, because one night I managed to do it, and then I could do it at will. And I started to do it every night. And I was sleeping very little because I was so sad and I was so obsessed, and I was not sleeping at all. And the little time that I did sleep, I was doing this stupid thing. But sooner rather than later, I lost all control. So at first I could do it on demand. Like I could set myself like, okay, I'm going to do it, and I could do it. But then I couldn't choose whether or not I wanted to. Every time I fell asleep, I was conscious. And this really scared me because, first of all, I could never meet anybody in the stupid astral plane that I now know probably doesn't even exist. It's just you inside your brain. But then I lost control completely, and I couldn't choose not to. So every single time when I went to bed, I was conscious the whole time. I was conscious, and I was conscious even if I didn't want to be conscious. I couldn't just turn it off. And I got really, really fucking scared because I couldn't stop. And as a product of this whole thing, this whole hellish nightmare that happened to me 2 years ago, I got nice gifts out of it. I figured out like something that seemed or sounds reasonable to me about like the way reality works. So it wasn't all like a waste. I managed to like learn how to read symbolically almost anything, from like actual real life events to like books or movies. Like now I have like 2 readings Like my brain split into two, and now I can read like the regular reading and like the reading behind the reading. And this happens without even me trying. Like it's like having some sort of stupid superpower. Like I glow in the dark now. You know, a stupid, pointless superpower. But all in all, it was a hellish experience that I don't wish upon anybody. And how did I get out of this situation? Well, fortunately for me, thank God, somehow, I don't even know how, this person close to me has a very positive outlook on life. It's like the opposite, the polar opposite of me. I am someone who worries a lot and like pours my brain into the craziest wild geese chases you could imagine. By the way, as a product of this whole thing, I did an 8-hour deep dive into a stupid book, okay? Where I explained like the building blocks of reality through the stupid book. That's like how insane I was. I'm gonna link it over here so you can watch it if you want to. If you want to go super dark for 8 hours. But anyway, what was I saying? So so this person has a really positive attitude, positive outlook, and they believe that they believe, I suppose, in a more interesting and smart version of like manifesting your own reality, so to speak. Like they believe that if they just think positive thoughts, things will go good. They go well, and they refused to go to the doctor, but they kept thinking that nothing was wrong. And I was trying to like shake them by the shoulders, and I was like, you forgot what the word avocado means. You cannot do like a basic wire transfer. You don't remember the steps to doing a wire transfer. But you know what? They got completely over it. It blew my mind. I have never seen anything like it. It was literally like a stroke. I kid you not. And today, they're 100% back to their former self. There was like not a single side effect left. It took about 1.5 years for all the effects of this to disappear. And I am so grateful. And this person, when they realized that I had gone off the deep end, and I was like doing tarot 25 times per day and like lucid dreaming, and like I couldn't stop. I was like completely insane. You know what they did? They took all of my stupid esoteric books, all of my tarot decks, and threw them in the trash. And they told me that I was not allowed anymore to do any of these stupid things. I got mad. I got pretty mad. But I am so thankful, because from that moment, there was a split from that moment on when I got rid of all of this. Not on my, like, I was forced to. When all of these things disappeared, I slowly, and obviously because the threat of dying was no longer a threat, I slowly got better and better, and now I'm perfect, and I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. Like I haven't done a single tarot spread since I got over this. So as a result of all of this, that's how I realized that the thing that drove my anxiety is a fear of death and an existential like obsession, I would say, because it was definitely obsessive. And I don't have a solution that is universal for everybody. Like if you're watching this because you were looking for a video like this, I would tell you to listen to yourself or someone that loves you. Because a lot of people are different, and what works for someone else is not going to work for you. And I cannot recommend you to do what I did, because I don't know if it's going to work for you. Like I can tell you what I did, but I cannot assure you that it's going to work for you. I'm not going to be like, all you have to do is pray to Jesus. And I'm not going to tell you, well, all you have to do is join my church or buy my handbook. Here's the handbook, how to get over an obsessive flare-up. Here you go. You know? But I'll tell you what I did, in case you care to know. The thing that works for me, because my problem is a brain that never stops. You see, I'm pretty smart. And the fact that I'm pretty smart has been both like a blessing and the biggest like karma that I've ever had in my life. Because being smart, I can solve so many problems so easily. And I can see things most people don't see. But at the same time, I have a brain that needs, it craves stimulation that is far higher than normal life experience. And it needs to feed on questions, and it needs to solve them. So if I don't have problems in my day-to-day life, it'll make up problems, and then completely get completely obsessed in trying to solve these puzzles. And it takes a toll. So in my case, what I do is I try with all my heart to focus like on actions, like on real, concrete, real life actions that will stop my thinking, you know? For example, cooking. I love to cook. And if I cook real hard and I focus on cooking and I play something like a TV show or something on TV, or music is better, music with no lyrics, then my brain kind of rests because it focuses on something tangible. Like, how can I make this the best pasta I can? You know, I feed my brain tangible, actual problems rather than intellectual, abstract, castles in the sky type of problem. And it works for me. If I focus on cleaning my house, like cooking, and doing all of these things that are tangible in the real world, then my brain is happy and healthy instead of like sick. So that's what I do. And anyway, that's my whole like story of my crippling fear of death. So so that's today's video. I don't know, this is probably like 2 hours long or something. Yeah, so for those of you who are watching me for the first time, my channel is, I'm doing like a project this year, and I don't know where it's going to take me, but I plan on doing one video every night for a whole year. So 365 videos in 365 days. And each night, my intention is to talk to you about something that matters to me. So some nights, it'll be funny stories that happened. I like to laugh too. I'm not just a crybaby. I like to laugh too. So sometimes it's funny stories and like anecdotes and stuff. Sometimes I'll tell you something outrageous that happened or that I saw somewhere. And sometimes it'll be strange things or sad things, but I'll always tell you things that I actually care about. That was the one promise that I made myself. Like, I'm not going to be able to stick to this for 365 videos unless I am 100% honest and I tell you about the things that are in my mind for real. So basically, I'm going to let the subjects find me instead of like trying to find subjects artificially. And yeah, and the atmosphere is cozy. I'm trying to have like a conversation with a friend type of vibe. And right now I have a super small audience of like 5 people and a dog. My dog loves these. But if you are happy and you want to watch my videos and follow me on this journey, 365 video journey, then you can either subscribe here. That it doesn't do much. They don't really recommend you anything that you're subscribed to for some reason. Or I also can send you emails when I post things if you want to get emails. That way you don't have to rely on YouTube's algorithm recommending you the things they think you're going to want to watch. If you want to get emails, you can sign up here. You can go to this website. Wait. you can go to this website and enter your email in the box. By the way, if you do, make sure that you confirm the email address, because if you don't, you're never going to get my email. So you need to like subscribe and then find the confirmation email and click on it. Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for watching, and I guess I'll see you soon.